Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the In-Depth Genealogist Chit Chat Live. My name is Shannon Combs-Bennett. I'm the creative director, and joining me this evening for this episode about Genealogy Roadshow, Episode 2, Season 3, are Sherry Hudson-Passy from Carolina Girl Genealogy, Melissa Barker, archivist and genealogist, as well as Valerie Eichler-Blair of Val's Roots. Hi, everyone. How are you this evening?
Great. How are
you?
Great. Yay. Jen Alford, our publisher, will be joining us in a few minutes. Unfortunately, her computer decided to start a scan right as we started airing. And seeing as I have had my difficulties of computer issues in the late, I guess it's her turn. So, everyone, what did you think of this second episode in Miami, right? Yeah, that's where we're at, Miami.
Mm-hmm. So
it was
good
wonderful.
and so emotional. This was a real emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, wow, and full.
Next.
What were you saying, Melissa?
I was just saying it was awesome, and it was packed with information and documents and a lot of emotion, and they just got a lot in there. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of information, a lot of interesting, once again, I thought unique, and I guess at sometimes I think important to the social history of the United States information as well, just like it from episode 1. Yeah. So does anybody, go ahead, Melissa.
I was just going to say such a variety, too, which I enjoyed.
Yes.
A variety of places and subjects.
Yeah, and I would think with such a culturally diverse area, especially in Miami, that it's nice to be able to see how many different people and stories they could pull in. It wasn't all centered on just, all American. They had variety from different countries and different ethnic backgrounds, so that made it a nice episode, too.
And that leads to totally different record groups and resources.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of different record groups and resources, I found it interesting. The woman from the island of what is it? I didn't write it down. The woman who had a little bitty. She's from an island. They said Kenyatta did the interview. Started with a T. And she said that they didn't allow copies at the archives. Everything had to be transcribed.
St. Lucia.
Yes.
It was
St. Lucia. Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
It's like they don't what? No what?
No copies policy, and
no copies policy.
The researchers did 4 generations of extracting.
Yeah.
I can imagine the time.
Mm-hmm.
To do that. We know how long that takes. And so
Yeah, but to sit there, I am addicted now to my little app on my phone and go click, click, click. But to sit there and have to hand transcribe everything, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, hours and hours of research. So anybody else want to jump in with a story that they want to talk about first?
Oh my gosh.
Everybody's looking at their notes.
I'm used to going in order.
All right, Sherry.
Okay, let's go. All right,
Melissa,
Valerie, let's go start from the top. I'm like Valerie. I like to start at the top. Let's start
at the top.
But from the Philippines. He had the Philippine ancestry.
Yes, he did.
And I first of all, which is because I know nothing about the Philippines, when they said that there was 7,000 islands that comprised the Philippines. That just amazed me.
Yeah, it was my husband. He said it's kind of like someone just threw rocks into the ocean and said, "Let there be islands."
Yes.
Like, oh, okay. But yeah, I didn't.
It's an interesting way to put it.
It was. And he was completely sober too. No. What I found interesting was I didn't realize there were that many islands. I knew the bigger land masses. My grandfather fought in the Philippines in World War II. So to me, that story, I was interested to see where it went just from a personal history standpoint for my own family. But no, I didn't. 7,000 islands. I'm thinking, how small are some of these places?
Right.
Probably little dots, pin dots.
Probably. So were there anything interesting that you want to make sure that we talk about from that segment? I have a couple ideas. Who wants to go first, though?
I was interested when they were talking about the gorilla records
Mm-hmm.
that they looked into, and they said they were not online and they were not indexed, but there were
Right, not indexed,
thousands of pages, and I thought, okay,
Welcome to
got to
your
do some
world.
research. Welcome to my world. That's exactly right. That's exactly what an archives is. It's unindexed, not online, and you got thousands of pages. So, and I'm glad that they went through them though, because if they weren't online, if they're not indexed, I'm glad they took the time
Yes.
to go through them.
Because they were able to find what his grand uncle in those records. Is that who it was? It was his grand uncle. Yeah. Yeah. And they were able to. Able to find him, and then to find out that he had actually been there to the same island where his mother was born, I think was just incredible. She was two, and
That was like goosebumps.
It was, yeah. It was it was like kind of gives you chills, the way things work out like that. So he was part of helping her to be rescued. Just
Right.
That was just incredible.
I think Josh even mentioned that there's sometimes stories that just give you goosebumps when you start to research them and read about them and learn about them. And I can see how if you were the researcher on that in the Philippines and you start putting 2 and 2 or 4 and 4 together, and we're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, he was saying
Definitely
about
a
the
small
chills.
world.
Yeah, the chills and the hair standing up when they found the logbook that described and pinpointed the exact island, and stuff. What I thought was interesting from the teaching aspect was Josh made it a point of saying that we think it is your grand uncle, that it was likely him. So I loved how they used the qualifiers.
Right.
Because there wasn't. And again, using this as a teaching tool and him emphasizing that that's what he wanted to bring across is educating the general public. I liked the use of those qualifiers.
Right. Now, I have to say, if anybody is interested in finding logbooks like that, or more in particular naval history records like that, the Naval History and Heritage Command, NHHC, which is based out of the Navy Yard at Anacostia, just outside of Washington, D.C., is where those are all located. And they have an excellent website, digital archives, as well as in-person research that you can do if anybody comes to the D.C. area. Unfortunately, they won't do research for you, so if you can't come to D.C., you can hire a researcher to go there and pull records. But they have an extensive online catalog, and a lot of these logbooks and pictures, deck records, and lots of other things are already online.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. If you can't tell, I've done some research there. It's a wonderful. Yeah, it's a really wonderful place. They are in the process of renovating, and one of the most fascinating record sources they have, when they were in the middle of, I just have to tell the story real quick, sorry. When they're in the middle of renovating the building, they found a box of glass negatives from the Spanish-American War that had never been developed.
Wow.
And they have now taken those and developed them and put them online.
Neat.
All having to do with naval history. So, yeah. But yeah, that was pretty cool, I thought. So what was the next story, ladies? Those of you who took notes, and we're going in order.
Yeah. That was related to Pocahontas.
Yeah.
With
Mary.
Yes. The whole time they were introducing that story, I go, "Oh, Shannon's gonna love this one."
Yeah.
Her Pocahontas family.
With my, you're related to Pocahontas' sister.
Yeah.
And this lady was from Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
That's right, yay! Not very far from you, right? Not very
far. No, it's only about an hour and a half east of me.
No, so not far at all.
Yeah, not far. We know I go there all the time.
Yeah.
I would too if I lived that close.
Oops, sorry. As I spill my drink all over the floor.
Oh, no.
Sorry, everybody, for me screaming in your ear. I didn't.
Red on white carpet. No.
No, we're good. I sometimes forget that my keyboard is on a sliding drawer.
Oh.
I put my drink on it and it moved it out of my way so I could cross my legs, and it went. Psh.
Oh.
Oh well, I'll clean it up later. As a person who lives in Virginia, though, I was happy that she covered, as she said, the red, white, and blue bowlings. Have you guys ever heard of those before?
No, I'd never heard of
I
it.
I
have.
had not.
You had, Sherry?
I haven't
Uh-oh.
a family line that said, from Pocahontas.
Yeah. Sherry, you were breaking up. Are you coming in better now?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
you were
there we
breaking
go.
up.
There you
There
go.
we
Am
go.
I okay?
Now you're
I think
better.
so.
Okay.
Or not.
Or not. Someone want to.
Or not. Well, I was thinking that.
Here, we'll give Sherry a second because it looks like she might have frozen a little bit. Um, what I was going to say is what I thought was nice about it was that it shows that even though you might have a surname, doesn't mean that you can necessarily connect into someone of a famous lineage. Because there are a lot of people,
Right.
especially newer researchers in Virginia, if they come across a bowling in their family, they try to tie themselves into the Pocahontas line automatically.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. But since
Because wouldn't that be cool?
yeah, it would be cool. But she only had one son and he only had one daughter.
No.
So, I mean, it's a very small.
I know when they went through that, and it's like only one, and only one. It's
Only
like
one.
and it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I had my little fascination with Pocahontas there.
Well, and I thought it was good that Mary, she was very tactful about it.
Well,
That
Yes.
True.
I think the woman also took it very well, that it was one way or the other, it was information. It didn't seem like she was heartbroken. So that was a good
no.
reaction to have too.
I think so.
Oh, Sherry, it looks like you're back better. Your
I'm
picture's in better. Yay. Okay.
Well, I think because she had done some research at the one point, it said that she had successfully researched back to her 7th grade.
Mhm.
And so doing that, you pretty much will know how things are being referred to back then versus now. But I did like how Mary said, obviously genealogists nowadays aren't going to refer to, red and,
Right.
so forth.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah. And so I didn't have any clue of Pocahontas, just knowing, oh, okay, I come from Sacagawea area. And so I thought it was really interesting how they went into the evidence and explained that. And then the DNA, and I was so excited to see that there's a family association.
Yes.
Yeah.
A
That
very
was really
large family association. So this means, Valerie, that when you come out to Virginia to visit, we have to go to the Jamestown settlement.
No problem. Definitely. Definitely. I may be there long enough where I'll start cooking and
Cooking is fine. I don't cook, so
and cleaning and
that's funny. But if people are interested in learning more about Pocahontas and particularly early Jamestown settlements and who was there and the Indian Wars, because slightly after, I think it was just a few years after her death. Yeah, because her son may have missed it. There was a massacre of white settlers by the Powhatans because the relations got so bad for a while. There's tons of very interesting and fascinating history surrounding the Powhatan tribe and the English settlers at Jamestown and the surrounding areas, especially as they started to spread outwards. And especially when people start thinking about, because she was portrayed as not only the representative of her people, but then, taken to England and paraded around court as a civilized, savage type person. So, and it's sad that she went to England with her. I think Thomas, her son, was a year or two old, and her husband, and she died before they got on board the ship, and she was sick, and they actually put back into dock at Gravesend where she died. So she didn't actually make it back home. They've only been married a few years. Bad. Yeah, but she's buried in England in Gravesend. So if you guys get over there to the London area, you can actually go see her tomb.
Wow.
And it's under her English name. Did you all catch that?
Rebecca.
Or
Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that's important to know. All right, so before I keep talking about that, because I know way too much useless information, as always, what's the next story on the docket?
But wait a minute.
Valerie,
we're not done.
No.
Okay.
Excuse me. It was so
dual
cool when she said dual citizenship, and when she said
Yes.
Italy, and then here she is with Mary,
Yes.
and I cracked up when Mary held up both hers, like me, and I'm going, yes, but oh my gosh, that was just so cool. Well, here on the Roadshow, we like to break rules and held the document. Oh my gosh, I just fell on the floor. That was
I got
was
all
so
teary.
Cool. Yeah,
I got tears in my eyes.
And she said,
cool.
sometimes you win some, this time I won some.
Yeah.
I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Can I give you a hug? Me and I love to give hugs, so then they get, that was so.
That was sweet. That was great. They did that for her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, but there is a rash of my friends going around who are getting dual citizenships recently. So that story was kind of interesting.
I wonder if that's politically motivated.
I was just going to say, wonder if that's politically motivated. See so I've been telling Christine Woodcock, and everybody's like, okay, let me move to Canada.
we are not going to talk politics in this
No.
show. That's right. No. Before we go down that bad avenue, the next story.
The third segment was...
That's right. What was the third segment?
It was Melissa.
With Kenyatta.
It was Melissa with Kenyatta.
Oh, yeah,
that was so good. It was a hard story. It was a hard story to listen to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But even
really
hard stories are important to tell. And do you know there are still so many people who don't know that part of American history, which sometimes completely baffles me.
Yeah.
But
well, a perfect example is myself, because I had no idea, and I'm thinking up until 1972, and of course, being that I'm in Kansas, near Kansas City right now, I freeze framed it so I can get the citation of the paper. 1972? Are you kidding me? Where was I? College, cheerleading. Oh, go figure. I didn't have a clue, and I had to stop for about a half an hour after I saw that segment before I could start watching the rest of the show again. But like you said, you have I was clueless.
Well, all I could think of was it was the government kept this secret for 40 years, and then I immediately thought, okay, what else are they keeping secret? Because I know we don't talk in politics, but it's like, oh, wow, if they can keep that secret for 40 years, what else have they kept secret forever?
Well, and then, kudos for President Clinton. Of course, why did it take till 1997? And for them to show the actual video from that news conference, or when he said, I am sorry, I had to stop it again. It's like, why did it take till 1997?
Well, a lot of people, especially, with the government and things, you wait a certain amount of time until investigations can be done and other things happen. And it also, maybe there was some sort of commemoration around that time that he was responsible for, which led him to it. Because I'm not sure that I think a lot of, not to bring politics into it, but I think a lot of politics go into a lot of the politics around when you apologize.
Yes.
This is true.
Definitely.
Let's go back into the genealogy part of it and the records, because the records they showed were just. I learned or was reminded of, even the census, when it said, she carefully showed, farmer and his age and the R meaning rent. And it's like, okay, good. Here we go with the education part of it again.
Right.
And then, well, in that time period, in that area, that meant sharecropper.
Sharecropper.
And it's like, whoa, that's right. Because how long has it been since we've read those how-to things or read about that? If ever. And that's who they were focusing on when they chose these 600, men. Just
the uneducated, the ones who needed help.
Right.
Yep. And they probably said, hey, you're going to get some money.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to get some money for participating.
Now, remember, though, when here, I want to point out, though, that when they started it, it was before the cure was found.
Right.
So they could have, several years later, when the cure was found, when they discovered that penicillin cures this, they could have stopped.
Yes, they could have.
But don't you imagine, too, I mean, he had been diagnosed. Was he diagnosed with syphilis in like 1907?
Yes.
1907.
That's a long time to live with that.
And so he was probably already having symptoms and problems, and so for someone to come forward and say, hey, we're going to help you with this, don't you imagine it was very easy to say, okay.
Oh, yeah. And it was epidemic proportions in some parts of society. It was one of those diseases that once you got it, it could have horrible, not only life-changing effects on you, but your children, your spouse, lots of things.
Well, in that one document, it said latent, and she explained, you wouldn't see it, outright, but that the ringing of the ears, the pain in the joints, and heart problems, and is like that. In and of itself, for how long? From 1907 to then they did this thing, started the government in 1932 for this test.
Yep.
And penicillin, well, it said, I think, 1947. But,
it's just incredible to let people suffer like that when you've got a cure.
Yep.
I mean, my thing is, what was the point? Because they wanted to do the autopsies to check, how it was affecting organs. Well, what's the point if you've already got a cure? Why? You don't need to do that anymore.
As a scientist, sometimes we forget things about, there's a reason why you are now no longer allowed to do human experimentation, and when you do, you have to go through certain hoops. Because of Tuskegee. That is why it is so hard to do human-based trials and experimentation. And as a scientist, it can be very easy and very, at the same time, difficult to stop yourself. Because you want to keep studying. You want that answer. You want to know everything about what this is.
And these people were now a number. Yeah, they were now a number. They weren't people.
Right. Which, I understand the number thing, but to me, I was like, everybody gets a number in a scientific experiment because you don't want to know who they. Well, think about it. You don't want to know who they are.
Right.
You don't want to
bias things.
Right. That's
you don't want to put personal feelings into it.
You don't want to know their name. You don't want to know those types of human in my head, what I can see as a scientist, okay, I don't want to know about them. I want the cold, hard facts, and it's easier to associate cold, hard facts with a number. Right. It's very, very cold. Very cold.
Well, then, there was no death certificate, no burial record. No, they did, based on that one record, figure out that he died 1 week after the 1940 census was taken, and that the autopsy said cause of death unknown.
Unknown.
And I wonder
that's
how
a
many.
little odd.
I wonder how many others had said that and why there wasn't a record of it. And of course, now we kind of can
now we know.
guess.
Speculate.
Yeah. Yeah, speculate.
Yeah.
But
covering their tracks.
Yep.
Yeah, very emotional and very hard, but an important part. And
Very
and I
important.
liked what Kenyatta said, you know, that even though, I mean, she was teary too.
oh my gosh.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
even, you know, and I liked how she pointed out that, you know, even though, you know, this is a sad situation and et cetera, you know, your great grandfather was a part of something that
Right.
has changed policy in the United States.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's one of the things that that I teach the students that I teach. I have a monthly genealogy class that I teach, and you know, I think a lot of us, I guess you call us hardcore genealogists, professional genealogists, whatever, you know, we understand these stories. We understand that they should be told and documented, you know, but some of the newer or intermediate or some of the ones that are just doing it just to be doing family history, they don't know if they should be talking about it. They don't know if they should tell their family members what they find. You know, and I'm always saying, you know what, it is history. It's part of your family's history. It's part of their story. You know, and like in this case, it's part of a national story, you know, and it should be told and it should be documented.
Absolutely.
So I was really glad that they brought this out because to me it shows that we should tell our stories. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some that just should not be for reasons, but most of the time I think that it should be documented and told.
You know, Kenyatta responded to something I said to her on Twitter after that story. She said, this was the hardest story she's had to tell. And she says, and that's saying something. You know, we've done so much of this, but it was the hardest one she's had to tell.
You could tell that.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, too, having to do it on film and in public, and, you know, that must have been so difficult.
And having to tell someone else for the first time about it, about their family.
Yeah.
Especially when you never know how someone's going to react.
Right.
I
I wonder in this particular case, and we probably will never know, but I wonder if they kind of told her before they told her.
Well, she had an idea of it, remember, because she's the one that said, I've heard rumors that he was part of that. So she kind of knew.
I just wondered if they told her beforehand in case she didn't want it filmed, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a
good question.
That's a good question.
We should ask that, right, Jen?
Yeah.
We will find out an answer for you.
Well, on Finding Your Roots, remember when we interviewed Cece? That they took aside the star to let him know what was going on before they went on air with it.
Right.
Not Ben Affleck, but this past season, because we just talked to Cece. It seems like just a few months. Yeah, that's it. And so that he could have digest that, and I thought that was really good. And they might have, but even if they told her once or twice, you're still going to have those emotions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, sure.
You know, and when I see someone, you know, tears going down their face, and you know, and then I saw Kenyatta start crying, and I know what she had said last year that, you know, she bit her tongue so she wouldn't, and then this time she said, "Get your Kleenex out, Valerie, because you know there is crying." I'm going, "Oh no," and that's why it took me. I couldn't get back into rewatching the episode, and for a little while after these 3 stories, like, whoa.
They could have broken it up a little better. Yeah, no, I'm teasing.
It was definitely emotional.
It was.
You know. I definitely found I was lucky my husband wasn't home, so I could actually be engaged in the show. So the first couple stories I was really into, and I was getting all teared up and into the stories, and then of course hubby gets home and I'm all distracted and I pause it, and then it just wasn't I wasn't in the groove anymore. But it was a very emotional episode. I thought, that it was really wonderful, seeing how the different people reacted. It just touched me so much.
So what was the next story, ladies?
Before we go to the next story, I want to just say that I think it was just after this story or during this story that Mary Tedesco talked about visiting archives. I have to put that in there.
It was right after that. They went to the National Archives.
Yes.
That was the special
tour.
special visit.
And I was going, yay, yay, yay. Yes, I was doing that.
Her researcher card expires January 21st, 2017.
Well, that tells you when she went because they are good for 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you go in. Oh, sorry, my eyes are watering and itchy. Allergy season. Yeah, when you go get your researcher card at the National Archives, you're good for 1 year from date of issue. And then you have to get a new one.
But it's good they showed these kinds of things.
Yes.
So, again, the general public, researchers of all different levels that haven't been there yet, or haven't studied about going there yet, can see those kind of things. So, yeah, it was great. And
you hope that it whets people's appetite when they actually see it and they're like, oh, I want to go there. I want to do that,
Right.
Well, I was surprised. My husband even piped up during that segment and was like, oh, I didn't realize you could go in there. I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, next time I go.
Well, I will say,
that's really cool.
The parts that they showed her standing in, you can't.
Yeah. I figured.
Yeah, because all new modern glass with the rows of like the stuff behind her, yeah, you don't get to see that unless you're an employee.
Or the star of the show.
The parts that we get to see were the really nice, all wood desks with the rows of books behind it. That's the reading room that you get to go see the original documents in. And I get to sit there all bored.
So where she was and she was flipping those original documents that I want to get my hands on so bad, and she was flipping them, that's in the reading room, or was that behind?
She was sitting at a wooden desk and there were rows of books behind her. That's the reading room. That's on the second floor. That's where you go to.
So that file she was.
That's where you go when they pull the file boxes or the ledgers or whatever original records you want to look at. That's where you go. It's actually 3 rooms that are connected, and you find it an empty desk. It's first come, first serve, and you sit there and do your work.
That's so cool. Yeah. Oh, okay, we could go on and on just about that. Like, oh man, my mouth. Can you see me drool? Let me get the napkin.
Yeah, I could go on and on about it. So, I was just there today, so it's all fresh in my mind. But we won't.
And I'm so glad you were.
Have you looked at the documents I sent you yet, Jen?
No, I haven't. I looked at the ones from yesterday and was pretty excited about that.
Jen had me pull 2 homestead records.
Yeah. Yeah,
the one took homestead of them.
She scanned them all for me.
Oh.
So I have lots of good stuff to look at now and read through, and I think he's my 2 times great grandfather. His homestead record, and it actually lists several of his relatives' names that I've seen that I never was 100% sure about how they connected. I'm like so excited to dig into that. So I'm actually kind of glad that my little trip up to Michigan got canceled, because now I can stay home and do some research.
See, there's a reason things happen.
That's right.
Yeah, it's called we're poor. But yeah, I was like so thrilled that Shannon was able to do that for me and get those documents for me. So it's opened up some new avenues for me. I'm so excited.
So do you, like, that was the original file and she was looking at, and you said, you can go in there and do that. Now, do you have to wear gloves?
Nope.
No.
Nope. There are some documents that if they think you should wear gloves, you will be issued them.
Okay.
But otherwise, no. And their reasoning is, because that was one of the first things I asked the very first time I was there, and to them, since a lot of the documents the paper is so brittle, gloves will damage it because you can't
feel it.
Feel if you have the paper or not.
Nice.
So they don't wear gloves. They just ask that your hands be clean. You can't have anything but a pencil in there. You can't even bring paper in the room. They have paper for you there. They have pencils for you there. If you want to take anything out with you, it has to be inspected and then put in a locked bag that only the security guard on the way out will open.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that you can't steal documents.
Yep.
I'm going to do that with my office.
But no gloves. No gloves. And
there was an episode we talked about either Who Do You Think You Are or Finding Roots where they pointed that out.
Mm-hmm.
Where that the gloves would damage or because you can't feel. I'm thinking that was Melissa Etheridge or something that comes to mind, but that you couldn't feel and that it was damaging the document itself. So
and especially since we're talking about Jen, the documents I all pulled for her were varying qualities of paper. So they were very, very thin, very, very fragile, and they are stored folded.
Oh my
They
gosh.
are stored in the original tri-folded. So when you pull them out, you'll have sometimes you can tell whether or not that it has ever been looked at before because there are a couple of the records that I pulled out for Jennifer that I had trouble unfolding them. They'd been folded for so long.
Wow.
And none of her records had them, but some of the other land records that I've pulled for like military bounty or even cash sales, sometimes I'll find the actual patent on vellum. Do you guys do you all know the difference? You know what vellum is? Okay. And those are even harder to try to unfold than paper.
That's right.
As that something has been folded up for 100 years,
Yeah.
But no,
Crazy.
you get in the gray, thin archive flip boxes.
Hollinger boxes.
Yep. You'll get 100 plus, all numerical order, and they're all tri-folded together with all the paperwork for that specific case file, all folded together.
Oh, there goes I'm drooling again.
Yeah, and it's funny. So Shannon yesterday, she sent me the links on Dropbox of these documents, and I'm looking at them the last few minutes of my lunch hour, and I'm going, oh my God, these are so awesome, and I'm like so excited and like in tears, like I can't believe I'm looking at these. I'm like, can you imagine what it would have been like if I'd actually been there?
Remember, I'm the one who wrote a blog post about screaming at the National Archives, remember?
Oh, that would totally be me.
And they're used to it. Nobody will bat an eye.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, one of those silly genealogists again.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Right. The people who are in there for doing research for senators or other congressmen might look at you funny, but everyone else will go, it's okay.
Oh well, we look at them funny. So.
And the staff will come over and ask what you found.
Yes, I was just fixing to say, as an archivist, I always celebrate with my patrons because when they find something and they're doing their happy dance, or they're crying, I'm with them. I'm right there with them.
That's cool. That would be neat.
All right. Like I said, we could talk forever about the archives.
I know.
We need to talk about another story, don't we?
Well,
next one's Amber.
Amber. And she was 20 years old. It's like, oh my gosh. I just get so excited. Yeah, the next gen. Next generation.
That's right.
The next gen.
Next gen, yeah, and Josh, starting young, and it's like, and Cuba, and my own, because I didn't know much about that either, so I really learned a lot taking notes. But the very first photograph he showed her was in a magnetic photo album, and it's like, get out of there. It's like, oh man. But yeah, so, but what I guess I have one more point. they went right to the ancestor chart, right? And she wants to know about her grandfather. She has never met him, except now she sees a picture of him. Well, shows her, okay, here's you and your parents and stuff. Well, we're going to start with your great-grandfather. I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. Josh. So did anybody else pick up on that?
You wanted to give him a lesson, didn't you?
Yeah. Mama Val.
I think it's just they just wanted to end on that mysterious note, and they had to go back before they could. I think that's what it was.
Definitely.
I thought it was an interesting story, especially how her family was so integral and tied into the Spanish-American War, Cuban politics,
right?
How her great-grandfather became an American citizen, and and so on and so forth. And I kind of, the skeptic in me was like, really? You're going to plant the seed that he was a spy? Really? Really? Really?
I'm not. Yeah, I won't even get there yet to ask that question. But when you said became a naturalized citizen, that was an original.
Mm-hmm.
It was because of the color. Where did they get that? Because I've always thought that the person got that.
Maybe not. If they kept, it could have been at the what year was it? It was in the 1800s, right?
Well, he was. Oh, I didn't catch how old he was.
Because was that the actual naturalization certificate, or was that the Declaration of Intent?
I think it said naturalization certificate, United States. But now I'd have to go back and rewatch it again.
Because so I copied over 100 naturalization intents, Declaration of Intents today.
Oh my gosh.
Don't get me started. From the 1850s. And they have boxes and boxes and boxes of them. These were held at the district court in Washington, D.C. So these were for people who actually wanted to become citizens in D.C.
Okay.
I think by the late 1800s, and somebody who knows more about immigration will probably be able to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but a lot of those records you can still find at the district courthouses in the states that they would have been applied in before it became a federal thing. Because I don't think it became federal until after 1907.
September 27th, 1906.
There you go. So 1906. So before that, it would have been at the district courthouses.
Okay. Then that makes sense then. Okay. Why it was the original.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. I told you I'm full of useless information.
But that's good because now we're evaluating the evidence they used.
Oh, so bad, so bad. But I thought the newspaper article where they got to show the picture.
I love that sketch.
Petition the government. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Josh shared the Freedom of Information Act letter that they received when requesting. And I thought to myself, oh, I know I'm doing Chit Chat, so I have to ask, has anyone gone through the avenue of the FOIA to get information for your clients?
No.
Yes.
No, or personal research.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I will make a comment that I wouldn't have asked the CIA because they ain't giving jack to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's back up a couple steps. I was dumbfounded. It's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this, stupid question out there. It wouldn't have been even on my radar. All of a sudden, Josh is explaining it. He's got the A file there on the table. He's like, open it up, and everything there. And yes, he's got to document everything about his trip. And it was from 1962 to 1964. And here's a list of the travel dates. Then Josh just comes out the wall to me and says, "Oh, we suspect CIA." Huh? Where did that come from?
Well, go ahead, Jen.
Or he could be a drug dealer. You don't know. All those trips back and forth, you never know.
Yeah, a lot of trips.
I think the CIA thing came in like Shannon was talking about at the very beginning, or maybe it was when we were off camera about that we only get to see 10-15 minutes of the videoing, and I wonder if some information and things aren't told to them or shared with them that we don't get to hear or know about.
Right. Right, but it's like that was so far off my radar. I even asked my BFF research buddy too. I said, "Was it just me? Was I the only one that was, clueless?" But yeah. And then of course I definitely stopped that because in the recording, because I watched it live and then I watched the recording, and that sentence, and they only showed the highlight part, but I wrote down every single word in that paragraph.
Well, Valerie,
we count on you for, Val.
Huh?
Valerie,
that's what we count on you.
Valerie, without disclosing anything, can you tell us your experience with the FOIA?
It was interesting because I've done it a couple of times, and of course I wish I would have gotten a letter that said, "Sorry, we can neither confirm or deny." It's like, oh, good dirt. But I I ended up getting the documents and stuff. It took 8 months.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yeah, it took 8 months, and I always taught my students, and because I teach what I do, and I said, I would follow up in 4 to 6 weeks. Well, can you imagine how many follow-ups I did in the first 6 months?
Yeah.
And one of them took 8 months, and then the other one was close to that. I'm going, God, I could have had a baby, and it's like, but no, the documents came, and and it was fine, but nothing even close to this. But so yeah, it's very easy to do. The form is very easy to fill out and send in. You just have to have lots and lots of patience, which I don't have.
No.
So, but yeah, so I stopped after every 6 to 8 weeks to follow up, and so forth. But
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. So just remember that.
Yeah.
But and I wonder, and then he said, well, the researchers, we filed an FOIA request to the CIA, and I'm going, oh, this is going to be really good. But I still didn't have a clue. Even after watching it, I must have been asleep the first time I watched it because I didn't have a clue of what it was going on. So, yeah.
I wondered if it would have been worse to get one of those pages where everything but the word "the" has been redacted.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That would have been funny.
And then further down,
that would be my luck. I'd get those.
Yeah. Well, it was further down because they didn't show that because it was shaded, but it said is currently and properly classified, and then some words, and it says is protected from disclosure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He was into something, that's for sure.
It's not been 50 years yet, right?
It was here. Yeah, he was. It was clear he was into something.
Something.
All that traveling back and forth.
It's been 50 years, wasn't it? 62 to 64.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 50 years.
Well, depends on the classification status.
Well, that's true.
It might be 75 or 100.
Right.
Wow.
That's true.
Or if it affects national security,
Or
longer.
Forever.
Yeah, never.
That's why she said, she goes, when he says, well, we just don't know. It's unknown if, any connection. And she goes, well, we may never know. And I'm going, oh, bless her heart.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
So ladies,
she said you left me with a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So ladies, we have 50. We've been on the air for 50 minutes. Is there any?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we
still got one more segment.
Yeah,
Got
we've got one more
Jody.
segment. So let's do the last segment before we get too far off track.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to start?
This is
The lady
Jody.
that-
Go ahead, Cheryl. Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
Melissa, you start.
Murderer.
Jody had a bank robber at the Jersey Kid that she thought she was related to.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
I just have to say, I think the last couple where they've showed comic books are just cool.
They are. And if you'll notice at the end, and I asked Valerie about this too, at the end of the credits, because I know Valerie always takes notes of the researchers, but I always take notes of all the archives and the repositories that are listed, and the comic book archives was listed, and I said, that's awesome.
That is
Well, there
awesome.
was 4 screens of archives listed.
I would imagine.
No, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, a comic book, and I'm right after they did that, it's like, what is this with comic books? And it's like,
It's awesome, is what it is. Hello?
yeah.
It is, because it adds another element to genealogy that might interest somebody who's not been interested before.
Right.
That's a very good point.
Exactly.
So if anybody comes across a Ripley's Believe It or Not, I have what I'm looking for, so let me know.
Okay.
My second time's great-grandfather was in a Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Really?
Oh.
But I've never been able to find the actual issue, but I have the newspaper article written about it.
Do you know what issue it's in? Do you know what
No.
issue it's in, or you just no? Okay.
It would have been in the 1930s, because he died in like 41 or 42, and it was for being the world's oldest golf caddy.
Golf caddy?
Oh.
He was in his
Wow.
80s, and he was
gosh.
still a caddy at
Wow.
at a resort in French Lick, Indiana, and
Huh.
at the West Baden Resort it's a huge natural spring, and so yeah, he was out there hauling people's clubs around into his 80s.
Bless his heart.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, one of
Did
these
you-
days I will find it.
You caught him being in the hospital, and the hospital records say giving really good detail of his injury. Ouch, number one.
Mhm.
But when it said the newspaper abusive language, and
Yes.
he lost half his tongue.
That
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I'm sorry to Jody, who was in the segment, and Kenyatta. I'm sorry, but I just cracked up. It's like,
Yeah.
half a tongue, don't let that stop me.
that's
No.
right. That is definitely right.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes
I don't
your
know.
opinion just has to be stated.
Mhm.
That's right.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody else, but when they were talking about the death certificate towards the end, and they made the statement, well, it's obvious that he didn't abandon the family. I thought, well, how can you say that by just looking at the death certificate, the fact that his wife, was the informant? He could have abandoned the family and then died, and then she collected the body and gave the information.
I was wondering
That's
about
true.
that too.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because, she might not have known where he was. Just that
Right.
he had died. So last known address, well, mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, there is something else that we don't know that was
Right.
said.
That
Or
they
All we
didn't
saw
show.
that the man, we just saw the address match.
right. The other thing is that my husband and I talked about after the segment aired was, well, it was her grandfather, right? Or was it her father?
Her great grandfather.
Her great grandfather's the one who died. So her grandfather, he was a very small child when his father died. So maybe to him, he
He
abandoned.
had been abandoned.
Right.
Right.
He wasn't there. Maybe he
Wasn't
didn't
there.
really know exactly what happened. He just knew that he wasn't there.
Right.
And no one ever
Right.
talked to him about it.
Right.
I mean, I could see that being a very easy way out,
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
I don't want to talk about my dad. He abandoned the family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's that personal psyche thing again.
Right.
I did make an observation, and I don't know why I made it in this segment, and I didn't see it in any of the other segments. But I noticed, and maybe you can help me with this, but in the background, there's people milling around and standing around. But I noticed in this segment there wasn't as many people, and so you could see back in the back there were tables set up with look like vendor tables because I could see the FGS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And so
at each
there
place
are.
they had the vendor tables and FGS. There was Find My Pass because Jen Baldwin will be in the background of one of the episodes.
The DAR always has a table.
DAR was there. It was
this was the first time
local
I
Genealogical
noticed it.
Society.
Yeah.
The local Genealogical Society or Historical Society, they were there. Yeah.
I think they usually have them more off to the side, but I think it also depends on the venue. So it may have been with this venue, they didn't necessarily have the room to put them out of camera, so they, had them all the way around them instead.
Okay. Well, this is the first time I noticed it. I don't know if it's because I've been into the story so much I wasn't paying attention, but this time I actually noticed it.
In the background.
Yeah. That's why it's nice to watch it live and then to watch the recording. So that way you can pick up on all kinds of different things. And like I said, stopping and starting, but be prepared to have plenty of time to do that.
Right. All right, ladies. Well, our time is like more than up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're full of wind tonight.
But this is such a huge amount of stuff in the episode. It's just amazing.
It was full.
It was. And we'll have another city next week. There's 6 episodes total. And one of the episodes coming up will be our favorite. Another our favorite, but they'll also be in Boston, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles.
LA? Weren't they in Providence?
It was Providence, not Philadelphia. So
Providence, yeah.
Boston, Providence, and LA. And from our vaults, our favorite segments type episode 2 coming up.
Cool.
But I can't remember what's next week. I think it's from the vaults, but I might be wrong.
I haven't looked that far ahead.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, on that note, ladies, thank you all for joining us this evening. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop by next week.
Will do.
Okay. And on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in and putting up with our shenanigans this evening. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoyed yourself too. As always, feel free to contact us. We would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, not only of the show, but if you have any ideas for future segments that we might need to cover as well. And on that note, don't forget to go in depth with all of your ancestors. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.